What's the deal, everybody? Today we are talking about real estate business models, and we're going over outsourcing versus editing yourself. There are a few pros and cons for each one, so let's discuss them and figure out which one works best for your real estate business. Let's go. All right, jumping right into this, the first thing we're going to tackle is editing yourself. A few pros to editing yourself is that not only does it not cost you any money, but it also allows you to offer more images per property because you don't have to pay per image. When you outsource, you always have to pay per image. That's generally how it speaks, unless you hire an in-house editor, in which case you are far beyond the outsourcing because you are insourcing at that point. When it comes down to it, you've really got two options here. You've got outsourcing and insourcing, or editing yourself. It's going to be a weight of cost versus time. Now, a few benefits of editing yourself is, first of all, it costs nothing extra. All it costs is your actual time. So if you are starting and bootstrapping from the ground up, this is probably the way to go. There are lots of tutorials out there teaching you how to edit high-end imagery, but unless you are in a high-end market, that may not be necessary. I personally operate in the Triangle area, and only about 2% of agents use high-end imagery here. Even the million-dollar properties are done with standard MLS photography, and I shoot them all the time. High-end images really around here are for builders and architects. Some agents are using them, but not really. So what does that mean for me? It means that in my business plan, I get to cut out the outsource editor because it's not required. Now, do I offer this service? I do offer this service. And that's because some agents still want it, and I want to be able to work with everyone. And more importantly, I want to be able to work with architects and commercial agents. Commercial agents in our area do expect the higher end imagery compared to the lower end standard MLS photos that traditional houses on the marketplace can deal with. If you're selling a house for about $300,000, your budget to spend on images is probably around $175 or less, generally speaking. So you typically go with the lower end package price. Plus, a lot of times in our area, agents prefer to have more images than less, which is another pro when it comes to editing yourself, because they expect a higher number of images. The MLS in my area dictates 30 images. So for a standard package delivery, I had to deliver 30 images. Now, it depends on who your outsource editor is and what type of quality they are producing, because just like there are different quality photographers, there are different quality real estate editors. I personally use a very high-end editor when I do high-end work because I don't do a ton of it. So the stuff that I do, I really want to shine. It costs $2 an image, outsourced out. So if I provide 30 images, that's $60 out of pocket to my editor right away. When I do traditional MLS photography, it is $0 out of my pocket. And if you've seen any of my other videos, I've pretty much narrowed down a really wham bam, thank you, I am done kind of service that produces high quality images, not the top high end outsource style images, but high end images nonetheless, especially compared to what's in our area. It allows me to photograph them in about an hour, but either way, I'm kind of off topic here. Let's get back to the matter at hand. Now, let's talk a little bit about outsourcing, why it's popular, and what market you should use it in. Now, if you are in a luxury market, I'll just use Miami, New York, most areas of California. These are areas that almost require high-end imagery. If you want to learn how to edit them yourself, there are tons of tutorials online. I even offer a few small ones, but I highly recommend, even if you're going to hire an outsource editor, you should at least learn how to do it, because every once in a while things happen. You may have to edit these yourself, even if you have a person that you rely on steadily, or you may be scrambling behind on the last minute. So I recommend, if you're going to offer high-end imagery, to at least know how to create them. Trying to figure out a way to make this a little comical or interesting at least. Either way, if you like this, please press like, mash subscribe, all that jazz. Help me out with the algorithm. Let's get back to it. When it comes to high-end imagery, I know how to edit them, but it takes a lot of time for me. And for me, it's worth the time to send out to someone who can actually do it better. I'm a great photographer. I am a good editor. But when it comes to these high-end edited images, most of these people are using a program called Tech, which I have not personally made myself available to and checked out yet. So I just think it's a hassle for me. So once again, when it comes to my high-end images, I outsource them out with absolutely no problem. But I do have to charge my clients a premium to do so. And that's the difference. If you're going to outsource your image editing to anyone, you need to make sure you know these costs ahead of time before you give quotes to your agent. And if you're going to offer both services like I do, I highly recommend having an example of the exact same room from each style. Don't make it look the best, make it an actual product. Do a traditional style MLS and a high-end style MLS. Offer both to your agent and see which one appeals to them more. So now let's really kind of compare the two and everything we've talked about so far and how it may relate to your personal business model. If you are a photographer that lives more in the country, has a larger range, houses of about 500,000 and below, I can pretty much guarantee that you're doing more standard MLS photography because those markets are traditionally a little bit lower paying. Now, if you're in one of those high-end areas I talked about a little earlier, then you can charge a more premium product, allowing you to make up the difference in the cost. So one way you can kind of get around it, if you don't have the time and you have the money, you can simply offer less images. Let's just say you charge $200 for a standard MLS package. And in order to offer that same amount of images at a high-end package would be $260. Now what you can do is cut that number in half, deliver 15 images instead of 30, saving yourself some money, and offer them the option to add more images. And this is exactly what I do with my high-end package. It starts at 15 and I allow them to buy more images in quantities of 5. So starts at 15, jumps to 20, 25, 30, and all of those have a standardized price range of increase. So that way they know exactly what they're getting into, and agents that prefer those higher end images can still get them for their lower end properties without breaking their own marketing budget. Because that's really what you as a real estate photographer is going after. You're trying to figure out what the agents in your area typically use as a budget for a typical house. If you've seen my last videos and you know the typical house in my personal area is somewhere between 300,000 to 600,000. There are higher price, there are lower price, but generally speaking, those are the houses that move the fastest and are the most plentiful in my personal market space. So I have to build all of my prices off of the real estate agent's budget and not necessarily what I want to make. That's a tough one there. A lot of people will tell you to just charge what you need to charge. Figure out your ROI, figure out what it costs you to operate, and charge that. Well, you also have to factor in your client's budget when you're doing this. If you want to get paid a lot of money, you can do it. You just have to go after the right clients. If you want a plethora of clients at a lower price point, you can also do that. Just figure it out in advance. Solid, sound business structure will take you the furthest. So figure out in the beginning, do you want to outsource or do you want to edit yourself? Is money more important or is time more important? You have to figure that out for your own personal business strategy. As always, enjoy what you're doing, keep rocking and rolling, make smart business choices, figure out what you're going to edit and if you're not. And I'll catch you next time.